Welcome back to another NRL matchups preview where we run through the statistical analysis for each game of the round. This is completely applicable to Classic and Standard modes, NRL Fantasy, SuperCoach, you name it. The data captures the matchup statistically, so the model runs through a number of key things, but what it gets down to at brass tacks is how well does a team and position score against their opponent that they're playing and vice versa. So that's what this is about. If you haven't seen it before, I'm sure most of you have, but if you haven't, stick around. Really easy to explain and understand. Before we jump into the matchups for the round, guys, just want to quickly jump into the weather. Looks like Brisbane and Sydney are absolutely fine, so we're expecting some banger footy. It's been raining heaps today in Brizzy, but it's only Wednesday. So Friday, that'll all dry up. And by Saturday, we're rolling. So that's that Broncos game Saturday night. So keep that in mind. First game of the round, Raiders-Sharks. So we've got, for the Raiders, this is at home, so keep that in mind too. But for the Raiders, we've got elite matchup for the left 2RF, Huddy Young and the lock. Right half, left centre and right centre have good matchups, but pretty quickly it gets average because the Sharks are a good defensive team when it comes to points in fantasy. So neutral matchup for the left half for the Raiders. Bad matchup for the right winger, which is Xavier Savage. Hooker, tough matchup. Left winger, tough matchup. So pretty grim. So avoid probably starting all your Raiders outside backs. Just probably not the game for that. If you're in a pinch like I am in one league, I will start Tamale. That doesn't really bother me too much. On the Sharks side of things, I should say the Raiders, they're dominant in the middle of the field, so they're sort of pretty balanced, but they score most of their points up the guts, which is their forwards and their hookers and whatnot, which sort of checks out, I guess. For the Sharks, they're balanced, very high potency output, and they're balanced across the field. I expect that to drop a bit. I think without Ero, I don't know how left dominant they'll be, but touch wood, I could be wrong. The right centre, Ramian, has a gun matchup this weekend. Right 2RF and right half elite matchup. So we can see that right-hand side, Nico's side, looking pretty dominant. So Nikora, Ramian, Nico, and then Stone Street fire him up. Even though the Stone Street has a poor matchup, if the guys inside him have gun matchups, elite matchups, he's going to benefit at some point, you could think. So then we have great matchup for the front rowers in the left half. Bad matchup for Will Kennedy, who you should not be starting in any leagues whatsoever. Tough matchup for the left centre. And as I said, the Sharks are quite balanced. And a fair discrepancy in their favour. So they're just better across the park than the Raiders, which you'd expect. Oh, the next game of the round's dropped out. Oh, I'll have to pause this and fix that. Alright, we're back. I don't know why that happened. They were there. I just had to refresh, so all good. Next game's Panthers-Cowboys. This one's got a bit of chat about it, I think, with Tom Jenkins as a cheapie in fantasy and SuperCoach Classic and Standard and whatnot. People have got their eye on him. But let's just kick things off for the Panthers. Gun matchup for the front rowers. Gun matchup for the right half, which is Nathan Cleary. That's really big for your captaincy and vice-captaincy decisions. Right winger, gun matchup, which this weekend will be Casey McLean. Left winger, Alamotti has a elite matchup. Right 2RF, great matchup. The lock has a poor matchup. Both centres neutral matchups. But when you've got front rowers having gun matchups, it does tend to mean that the opposition team is losing the middle, they're losing the ruck, and guys are rolling on and scoring a lot of points with tackle breaks and offloads. So, yeah, if the Penrith Panthers get the ascendancy early, or throughout the game even, could be the bloodbath that some people are expecting. I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think Penrith are in the best form, but they should bounce back, and the data tends to suggest that when you look at the discrepancy, 16 in favour, it's a big overall discrepancy. They're the dominant down their left, which doesn't quite bear out in the matchups here, but that's good because if you've got right matchups and then they're dominant left, they're going to be good on their left anyway. You've got ascendancy across the park. The Cowboys are poor at SuperCoach scoring, even though they're balanced at SuperCoach scoring at this point in time. Gun matchup for the right 2RF, elite matchup for the hooker, Reece Robson, but I don't think that means much against Panthers and in general with how he's playing. Great matchups for the left 2RF, the fullback, the left half, the right centre. Poor matchup for the right half. Good matchup for the left centre and the front rowers. So yeah, it's sort of solid across the park. Panthers aren't what they've been from a SuperCoach defensive perspective and sort of fantasy scoring. Game 3, Rabbitohs Roosters. This should be awesome. Everyone will be tuning in to watch Latrell Mitchell at centre, I'm sure. So this will be a bit of a barnstorm. Hopefully the Roosters can defend a bit better to put on a better show for us. For the Rabbitohs, elite matchup for the left half and the right centre. Trell Mit's playing left centre, my bad, who has a neutral matchup. Great matchups for the right half, lock and front rowers. Right winger, left centre, and right 2RF neutral matchup. So pretty good. It shows the Roosters, they're not really locking teams down, guys, if the worst is a neutral matchup, if you get me. Rabbitohs are balanced, but they're not putting big scores across the park or dominant down any one side at the moment, or any one channel, I should say. For the Roosters, they have the discrepancy in favour of them, but I wouldn't trust it so much. Left half gun matchup, left winger gun matchup, Daniel Tupou. Gun matchup for Teddy, for any Teddy owners out there. Good VC option. Elite matchup for right 2RF and right winger. So you see the outside backs, should go okay in theory here, the Roosters. Great matchup for the right half. Tough matchup for right centre, Rob Toyer, who will be a sit-start candidate in many classic sides. Tough matchup and neutral matchup for the front row. So again, bunnies aren't really locking teams down, and so you can sort of see there's no bad matchups or poor matchups. It's pretty good across the park, so it should be a good SuperCoach game in theory, unless both teams really turn up with a bit more grit. Game 4, Eels Dragons. This should also be good. The Gutho revenge game and the Lomax revenge game. For the Eels, elite matchups for the front rowers and the fullback, Iongi. So in sit-start decisions, maybe you can go Iongi. I don't know. He was one attacking play away from upside, I guess, last week. So that forward pass, if you're wondering. Hooker, great matchup, which is Riley Smith. Right half, left half, great matchup. Right centre, left centre, bad matchup, Lomax. And left winger, tough matchup. Dragons have the discrepancy in favour in a material way. The Eels are balanced, but they're terrible at SuperCoach scoring currently. For the Dragons, the left half has an elite matchup. Great matchup for both centres of the Dragons. Good matchup for the right winger. Good matchup for the fullback, Gutho. Poor matchup for the right 2RF, Sewer. Bad matchup for right half, Hooker, and left 2RF. Interestingly enough, good matchup for Gutho and good matchup for the left half and left centre, but Tuipulotu doesn't make the list. So he's not in the top 6 or the bottom 3. So Tuipulotu's in the middle. So for Tuipulotu starters or owners, I think you've got to proceed despite what the data says. We know Gutho's going to be on one. And there's a little bit there that says the left could go okay. Game 5, Titans-Dolphins. This one's at the Titans. They're looking to be in solid nick. You can't really overly rely on them, but they should get it done here. For the Titans, the hooker has a gun matchup, left centre gun matchup, fullback elite matchup, left 2RF elite matchup, lock right 2RF great matchup, left half poor matchup, right half neutral matchup, right centre good matchup. For the Dolphins, gun matchup for the right 2RF, elite matchups for the lock, hooker, left centre, front rowers, neutral matchup, fullback, right half, right centre. Minor discrepancy in favour of the Titans. The Titans are right dominant but pretty balanced, and the Dolphins are balanced but they're middling in their scoring, so they're not really doing a lot from a SuperCoach perspective. That one's tough to say, but there's neither team's really that great, so we should expect a solid fantasy output here. Game 6, Broncos Tigers, Saturday night at Suncorp. For the Broncos, poor matchups for the right half, left centre, left winger. Tough matchup for right centre, left 2RF, left half. Fullback, right winger and front rowers have bad matchups. That is because currently the Tigers are the best defensive team when it comes to fantasy and SuperCoach. They're just locking teams down, but I wouldn't overinvest. They've got all these people out now this week. A lot of chopping and changing for the Tigers due to injury and I think maybe a suspension or two. So that is, I wouldn't read too much into the Broncos. They've still got the discrepancy, guys. So with all that choking out due to the Tigers defense so far this season, they still have the discrepancy. So back your Broncos attacking players. The Broncos are really balanced and they're one of the better SuperCoach and fantasy scoring teams in terms of output, which you'd expect with the way they've been going this season. For the Tigers, elite matchup for the right centre, great matchup for hooker, left centre, right 2RF, Seyfarth, both front rowers, so Terrell May and Bole and whatnot. Tough matchup for the right winger, the left half, and a poor matchup for Buller. They're balanced, but they're not scoring very well. They're quite poor in the way they're putting fantasy points out. It's just inconsistent. It's mostly Terrell May. So that's that one. This is a great example where you go against the data. Reece Walsh, bad matchup, but let's be honest, Suncorp, he's been in bad form, but he's getting there. Tigers got issues everywhere. I think you can go your Reece Walshes and whatnot. Game 7. Seagulls Storm at 4 Pines on Sunday Arvo. For the Seagulls, left centre elite matchup, left half right winger fullback good matchup, lock left winger neutral matchup, right centre bad matchup, right half front row a tough matchup. For the Storm, right half has a good matchup, neutral matchups for the right winger, hooker, right centre, tough matchup for the lock and fullback puppy. Left winger, left centre and left half all have bad matchups. It's a small discrepancy in favour of the Storm, but they should be alright, and both teams are super dominant down their right, so if you've got the right edges on both these teams, you can sort of go for it, and Jerome Hughes could come in late and really amplify that for the Storm. So that will be that's a real coin flip, that one. But I think you back your players in. Both teams playing attacking footy Sunday over at 4 Pines. People think this could be a bit of a grudge match, not many SuperCoach points scoring, but if the weather's good, it's hard to deny the dominant edges. But yeah, happy to be wrong on this one. I'm not really sure how it'll play out. It's just a bit too early in the data in the season. For the last game of the round, Bulldogs Knights, this should be a ripper. Bulldogs looking awesome, a lot of intent in their footy. For the Bulldogs, we've got elite matchup for the right half, front row and neutral matchup, right 2RF, right winger, lock all neutral matchups, left winger, left half, bad matchups, and left centre, poor matchup. For the Knights, lock gun matchup, left winger, elite matchup. Both centres, so Bradman Best and Gagai, have great matchups. Hooker, good matchup. Neutral matchup for KP. Tough matchup for right half, right 2RF, and poor matchup for the right winger. So the right side's a bit choked up apart from the centre. Yeah, I just think you got to just play your guys in this one. You're just not exactly sure what's going to happen. It is a big discrepancy in favour of the Knights, but that doesn't... It's because the Bulldogs players don't hit major upside more than anything, and the Knights haven't been incredible. They've had a good run, so the data in here is a little muddied, but go off what you know, which is the Bulldogs are staunch and the Knights are a little bit unreliable. The Dogs are dominant down the left and the middle of the field, and the Knights are dominant down their left, so Marju, Ponga and Bradman Best. I'm missing my boy Dylan Lucas, because he would be part of that for myself. Guys, that'll do it. I don't have any questions. No questions submitted. That's fine. Nice and punchy. 12 minutes on the dot. No, not on the dot, but on the nose. We got there. I'll pretty much leave this with you, but we'll just, pause on these, double check who you've got and how they all work together. Weather's looking pretty good. Should be a good weekend of footy. But yeah, that does it from me. Really appreciate everyone who tunes in. Please chuck it a like if you get any value out of it. Remember, this is really applicable to all formats of fantasy, so use this data to your advantage. Thanks, guys.